You're watching News 24 Live. Welcome to our Monday morning sports chat. I'm joined in the studio by Chief Writer from Sport24, Rob Howing, to touch on some of the weekend sports results and action and shock upsets. Rob, good morning.
Hi, Nick.
How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you.
So the West Indies pulled one back in Port Elizabeth. I guess, bringing back a bit of pride. So the South Africa obviously can't pull off the whitewash. But perhaps, I guess, some areas to look at, maybe not a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a wake-up call for South Africa. People have been saying, among other people, Graham Smith, Sean Pollock, previous World Cup captains, had been expressing fears when we quickly went 3-0 up and had basically wiped the West Indies in those first three matches. That we were looking a little bit sort of, not complacent, that wasn't the right word, but soft, because unavoidably we'd been sort of almost just way too strong for the West Indies. What did surprise me a little bit was that although it was really, really educative that the West Indies produced finally a much more sort of spirited and sort of lifelike showing on Sunday, it was I didn't expect them to win. I still thought South Africa, even with their sort of 2/3 strength team, should really have got over the line. I was a little bit concerned that, again, when the pressure mounted, when we got into a tighter and tighter spot, that South Africa again just seemed to wilt a little bit under that pressure. It's confusing because, I mean, some of the bowlers at the death were bowling some brilliant deliveries, but then, for instance, the sixth ball of the over would suddenly drift down the leg side and be clipped for 4 or something, or there'd be a crucial no ball or a wide at a vital time. And that's the kind of thing that has got to be a lingering concern when you talk sort of tight World Cup matches, especially as we get into that crucial knockout phase of the World Cup. So, look, better now than at the World Cup.
Yeah, for sure.
But for me, not a good result. I really think that South Africa should be capable of beating this particular West Indies team 5-0. And, that's without any kind of, over patriotism, if you like. I really think we should have been targeting 5-0. And I really hope they bounce back in the fifth game to at least make it 4-1.
I mean, perhaps some complacency setting in. What was interesting as well, in the bowling department, guys like Dermody and Behardien seem to be the most useful bowlers. Kyle Abbott, again, expensive.
Yeah,
that's concerning. Why is there not more of a push to use our spinners and medium pacers if they are more effective?
Yeah, well, the one thing I will say about Behardien, you rightly mentioned him. I was a little bit surprised that he only bowled 4 overs because there are certain conditions, and I think we'll hit them in New Zealand in that sort of leg of the World Cup matches, because obviously we do play a few games in New Zealand where the pitches will be a little bit more slower, will sort of hold up a little bit more, and that's when you need your little nagging medium pace bowler, which we didn't really possess until Behardien came into the team. Everybody else in our seam attack is pretty much sort of fast medium, most of them right arm over sort of thing, so a little predictable in a sense. And he does bring something different, and he got 2 crucial wickets in the defeat. So I thought he did pretty well actually, and I'd like to have seen him given perhaps a couple more overs. Tricky one though, because I thought Aaron Pangiso was bowling really well in a containing capacity. He's not the world's greatest strike bowler in the sense of picking up big hauls for South Africa, but he has been generally pretty economical in his matches. And I think he'd gone for something like 25 in his first 9 overs. Unfortunately, of course, he then got collared at a really vital time towards the end when Andre Russell sort of got hold of him. And again, a little bit of a worry that his final over, things began to unravel. That's exactly the situation where you want bowlers to be sort of, bowling at their best. And on that score, I actually thought Wayne Parnell bowled, another much maligned player, bowled a really good 10th over. He was very unlucky not to pick up several wickets, in fact, in that his final over. I know he didn't bowl the very last over. That was down to Kyle Abbott. But I thought Parnell did show a little bit of promise, a little bit of ticker in his own final over, even though his performance was again a little bit sort of mixed bag. Abbott, as you say, struggling to get wickets. He's averaging 66 now after 10 ODIs with the ball. Economy rate's still pretty good. He's only going at about 4.5, so that's not too much of an issue. But you'd like to see him also striking, especially up front. In his sort of earlier spell. So lots to work on. Sort of big issues in terms of almost the remainder of our side, if you like, because I think we've got 10 guys who are really settled in the side. 10 guys who pick themselves, and then another 5 in the World Cup squad who certainly don't pick themselves.
And then in the batting department, it seems like the guys really dovetail each other. Days when Faf du Plessis, AB de Villiers don't make runs, then Miller comes and blasts 130, and then vice versa.
Absolutely.
The consistency, I guess, is an issue.
Yeah, Miller made half the runs. That has pluses and sort of negatives, if you like. It tells you that the rest of the batting order had a few hiccups on the day, especially with the machine like Hashim Amla not playing up front. We were so used to Hashim giving the team at the very worst a sort of a steady start,
Sure.
and of course often piling on really major runs himself. So he sat out. And of course, we quickly went to, I think, 32 for 3 was it when David Miller took guard. Got to say, the one big positive was Miller played an excellent innings. I thought it was a really kind of almost like a seminal innings for him. I think he really proved that he's made of the right stuff. I was very critical initially when people said, you must bring Miller higher up the order. He was the number 6. And I actually thought, frankly, that statistically, he wasn't showing enough to justify moving higher up the order at one point.
More of a T20 player almost.
Exactly. And he was our designated finisher. And you normally think of a finisher coming in that sort of 6-7 area. But fair cop to those critics who've actually been insistent all along that Miller can actually play a bit. He can actually not just be a slogger, that he actually does have some strokes, that he actually does have a decent defence as well. I thought it was a magnificent innings. And I think it might be a big sort of turning of the corner for him. And what a wonderful time for it to happen, because if he can now translate this sort of new sort of resolve and confidence into the World Cup, then our top 6 as a whole is going to be a fantastic batting lineup. And we're not going to have to worry too much about the sort of, we shouldn't obsess, should we say, too much about the 7 to 11. It is a bit of an issue, but as long as we've got some of our big guns really firing, and one of them is sort of there in the death overs, then I think those lower order guys can sort of bat around that figure, and we can still make match-winning scores most of the time.